Montalvo Broadcasting Network. Support MBN, Montalvo Broadcasting Network, and shop with us over at Montalvo Store. Go to ebay.com and search in the advanced search. Type in Montalvo Store. Now support Montalvo Broadcasting Network. We have a wide array of books on conspiracy, apparel, and much more. Support your favorite radio station, Montalvo Broadcasting Network, by visiting Montalvo Store on ebay.com.
Tribal, primitive, rustic, Burning Man, punk rock, conceptual subculture, for the edgiest, most cutting-edge designs of jewelry today. Go to etsy.com/shop/conceptual subculture, or one word, either by going to Google or search Etsy, ETSY.com, and type in one word, conceptual subculture. You will find the hottest designs using natural stones with wire wrap rings, rough, raw, genuine, semi-precious gemstone jewelry, solid sterling silver, copper, leather, organite, bracelets, pendants, chokers, men's copper cups with sterling accents, eco-friendly, repurposed, original, one-of-a-kind design earrings. Support MBN by going to Conceptual Subculture on Etsy. Go to Antique Obsessions for the hottest in jewelry, antiques, repurposed, solid sterling silver, one-of-a-kind, handmade by Bruce and Jaja. Go to our Facebook, which is Antique Obsessions, or you can go to Etsy.com and go to Antique Obsessions, one word, or type it into your Google and find us there. Thanks.
If you're looking for the coolest apparel, jewelry, bracelets, earrings, the stylish and hippest clothing around, go to Poshmark.com. Poshmark.com at Anti-Culture. At Anti-Culture. The coolest, hippest apparel on the internet. Poshmark.com at Anti-Culture. Bruce Montalvo.
Continues to spread conspiracy theories.
Penchant for promoting bogus conspiracies as though they were fact.
About his conspiracy theory.
This is CNN, a network of China Broadcasting System.
Bruce Montalvo is the only radio talk show host that's not controlled. You're listening to the Bruce Montalvo Show.
Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Bruce Montalvo Show. Today's show might horrify you. It might just chill your bones. Very special guest today joining me on the line. He is the writer and owner of a publishing company known as Silent Publishing. Douglas started writing in 1983. He has written over 16 books in his Silently series, which are fiction but underlining truth and real vampiric people. I'm talking about vampires, folks. Vampiric. He's written about all these topics. You know, are they real? Are they working on our blood banks? I don't know. Let's find out. He's here. He joins me, Douglas Robinson, on the line. Hello, Doug. How are you?
Hello, sir. I'm good.
Thank you for being on the show. Now, tell us a little bit about your book, your book series, Silently Comes the Night. I see it has werewolves or wolves and vampires. You know, the lichens and the vampires. Tell us about your series.
The storyline. I took a little fiction writing class in 1983. After that fiction writing class, I saw the events of the storyline over the next 2 months. So basically, my first little short story in my fiction writing class was about Macon, and it was essentially her fight at the end of the first novel-length story. But the point is, after I finished my little fiction writing class, I continued to see it. I saw what happened before, I saw what happened after, and it eventually will evolve into what will be 16 novel-length stories about Macon. Most of them are about her relationship with a young man by the name of Thomas. When she first meets Thomas, he's not vampiric, but at the end of the first novel-length story, Silently Comes the Night, he's exposed to her blood, and in the second story, Rites of Passage, he's becoming vampiric himself.
Wow. This kind of reminds me, like, growing up, I used to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer a lot. I mean, is it kind of like that? A little bit, maybe like that?
Well, it's a total different take on it. I've had vampiric people on my heart most of my life. Thought about them, prayed for them, and so forth. And it just seemed that in 1983, when I took this class, it sort of like opened up like a whole new level of understanding regarding them. Macon herself is the chief character in the story, but I think she's real.
Right.
And I think that people like this do exist. But it's not written in the Hollywood style of, occultic elements like they commonly do. You're essentially looking at people that have to drink blood to live.
No, I totally believe that vampires are real. I'm sure you, throughout your research to write these books, I mean, like you said, they're based on true events, and I totally believe vampires are real. Vampire cults, I mean, you did the research, and it goes back to ancient times. I mean, we see the story of Vlad Dracul and the Order of the Dragon, all these dark orders surrounding, vampirism today.
One of the things that I guess not many people are aware of, but there are, what I'm talking about are physically changed people. But there are many, many more human blood drinkers, that is, people who decide they like the vampiric lifestyle
Right.
for one reason or another. But relatively speaking, there are many, many more human blood drinkers than true vampiric ones. The true vampiric ones have gone through what they call the change.
I see.
And in the second story, Macon explains to Thomas what that is. His body is adjusting to a blood-only for sustenance. And, it could have killed him, but he was fortunate that he was a superb physical athlete all of his life, and that helped save him part of the way. The first two stories are out. The next three are in progress. If you get any of the stories and you look in the front of the story, you see what will be the eventual 16 stories.
Wow.
12 of them are modern day. Now, it's not in our modern day, like with cell phones and internet and all of that, but the storyline began in 1993.
I see.
And went to about 1999. And the historical parts of the storyline, 4 of these stories deal with Macon and her start. She was attacked as a young girl of about 13, almost 14, and exposed to vampiric blood, and most of her family and her human life was destroyed.
Wow.
And that's in the first historical part of the storyline called Macon's Story. But if you look in the front of any of the books, you'll see the list of the stories that are to come.
Are these characters in your book, they have to have some type of psychic powers, right? You know, they always throw in the psychic vampires. I mean, there's got to be something to that. Do they exhibit some of those abilities in your books?
The way that you understand a psychic vampire, I think what you're talking about are these people that are able to, like, withdraw energy.
Yes.
Is that what you're thinking?
That's right.
The vampiric people in my story are not like that. A psychic vampire, for all intent purposes, is a person with a physical manifestation of a religious spirit, because that's what religion does. It sucks the life out of everything living to keep itself alive.
That's right. It's like Karl Marx says, the opium of the masses. Is it? It's like
I'm
a drug.
hoping that people would maybe step back from what they think a vampiric person is or a vampire is, and maybe take a fresh look at it, because they're very lonely. They suffer quite a bit, and their life is not glamorous or sexy or anything like that. Their life is essentially reduced to, I have to drink blood today, I have to drink blood tomorrow, where am I going to get it?
Right, and that's why I remember. I remember growing up, there was this series, ghost story or a scary storytelling series on TV that covered vampires showing up and just being your next door neighbors, and they just happen to work at a blood bank. Is that like some type of predictive programming?
Well, vampiric people cannot drink blood with heparin in it. They can't drink. The anticoagulants mess them up. It's like a food additive they don't need.
Right.
So really, for all intent purposes, they have to drink fresh blood. Now, they can drink animal blood for a while, but invariably, human blood is qualitatively different from animal blood, and they eventually go back to a human supply as soon as they can.
Wow.
Typically, if you remember these little pint or half-pint milk jars like when you're in school, a typical vampiric meal, if there's nothing else that's stressing them, is about 3 or 4 of those.
Wow. Wow. And you mentioned that there's a lot of humans today that they obviously they didn't ascend towards that type of that level of a real vampire, right? They didn't go through the transformation, but they still choose to drink blood. Why is that? Is it because they think it makes them younger? I mean, I've heard stories of adrenochrome and all sorts of things. I mean, it definitely sounds vampiric.
Well, their blood itself is nutritious in its own right, but people who decide to drink blood, the first thing overlooking this whole thing, the story has sort of like a Christian perspective to it, you know, describing the Lord Jesus Christ,
That's
his
right.
sacrifice.
He says the blood is the life,
real,
right?
and all of that. So largely the devil uses vampirism as his main draw, his big gun, if you will, to draw the masses into it. Whenever you see it portrayed in movies, it's usually glamorous and exciting and powerful. But he has all the occultic people that are on his payroll, so to speak. They pray a glamour, which is like a strong inducement that something is, just fabulous. But they pray for this occultic glamour to cover most aspects of this, and there are some people that are just sort of twisted. And Macon tells Thomas, let me see if I could remember the quote exactly. Some people drink for longer life. Some people drink in search of like immortality. Some are drawn to the cruelty and death associated with it, and some want to become a vampire in the classical sense.
Wow.
And that was Bacon explaining to Thomas the different types of people, other than true vampiric people, that drink blood also.
Wow, that's amazing. I can't wait till I get your books in the mail. Thank you so much. I can't wait to read them. It sounds very interesting. But what got you into vampires? Was it like the vampire movies when you were young, like the Lon Chaney's or the Nosferatu movie? We all seen that one. The very scary Max Schreck or Bela Lugosi. I mean, they added to the glamour of the vampire genre as well, right?
I started in Chicago. Although I was adopted, I did not know it at the time. I thought I was my parents' biological son, but I was not. I was adopted. And my dreams turned to blood when I was about 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
That means that I had very, how would I say this? I dreamed of myself dying, usually violently. And I didn't know I guess I knew what vampires were, but I didn't really see vampire anything. But my family moved to Alabama when I was about 13 years old, and I saw the Gothic soap opera Dark Shadows for the first time about that time. And the character Barnabas Collins touched my heart. And so I guess I didn't have the typical response. I sort of cried more than afraid. And I just wanted to understand them. And so even from that very, very young age, coming up, I always had them on my mind and I always had them on my heart. I think when I was about 13 or so, I do remember praying to the Lord about them. And the one thing that touched me more than anything else, I saw that they were alone, I saw that they were despised, and I saw that no one cared whether they lived or died.
Wow.
And I do remember praying and asking the Lord himself, I'll take them. Give them to me. I'll take them. And he said yes. And I think that's the underlying reason why I understand things about them that, maybe your general population wouldn't know and understand about them. And I think because I've carried them in my heart for so long, that's what allowed that breakthrough to come in 1983, where I just saw all of this stuff regarding Macon and her life and all of the situations that they could fall into, where they hurt, and yes, and even in some cases, how they die.
Wow. Speaking of how they die, Hollywood has you believe that it's with this wooden stake. Why is a wooden stake needed to kill a vampire? And I'm sure that's not the only way, right? There's many other ways. I'm seeing here they use tranquilizer darts or some type of colloidal silver. I mean, does that have anything to do with maybe the blood being some type of virus?
I think they're thinking werewolf and not vampiric person.
I see.
Now remember, when I'm talking vampiric person, and in the stories you'll see that I've altered the spelling a little bit just to make it different. I'm not thinking necessarily of the Hollywood, what you normally get from Hollywood regarding an occultic person like this. And is an interesting point. They're not any more or less affected by demonic spirits as the general population. I have a handout that's a single-page handout for any ministries that are interested in knowing more about this and doing more about this. So you can contact Nicole for that. It's just a single-page handout that tells you the many different kinds of blood drinkers and things that you might find if people are interested.
Right. There are some...
The way that they...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the way that they die is through massive body trauma.
I see.
They don't die of old age.
Right, they're immortal in a sense. I mean, they've gained immortal life, but there are some similarities between vampires and werewolves. I mean, they both seem to have shape shifting aspects. Do you incorporate some of that into your book series? Do they shape
I
shift?
didn't see when I saw the storyline. I didn't see any shape shifting, but I believe that such a thing is possible. I've seen a werepanther once.
Wow.
But that's a whole other thing, whole different thing. Vampiric people, what basically happens to them when they become vampiric, if you imagine blood is a very singular food source. Now, of course, they have to drink water and other things like that, but blood is their really only sustenance. When they adapt to a blood-only diet, our body, we eat all different kinds of things to maintain our energy and our life and our physical being. Because blood is such a singular food source, they don't have a digestive system anymore as such as you know it. But their entire metabolic pathway is streamlined because your body has done all the work of metabolizing and producing blood. And so their body does not have to. Because of this, more of their metabolic energy and their physical being is put in maintenance and repair.
Wow.
Our bodies normally have 5 to 10% maintenance and repair. Their bodies are more like above 90%. And this is why they don't seem to age. They're still a physical person. 20 years for them is, 20 years for us is still 20 years for them.
Wow. So they
but
show
the reason
they show
the
incredible.
reason they don't appear to age
Yeah.
is because their metabolic process is given so much to repair and maintenance. That's why they look, quote, younger.
They show
so long.
That's incredible. They show incredible signs of regenerative abilities.
The change as it is their bodies are thrown forward into a very aggressive metabolic regeneration cycle.
Wow. That's amazing. Is there any connection between reptilians? Because I'm a talk show host. I like to cover the paranormal, and they're a part of that. Is there any connection between reptilian folklore and vampires?
Not that I'm aware of.
Because I see a lot of similarities.
Like I say, I saw some very specific things, and all of it was regarding this girl, Macon, who's the lead character in the storyline.
Right, from your book.
But like I say, I think she's real.
That's right. You researched a lot of these stories in your books. They're based off of true vampire stories that you've researched.
Well, I didn't have to, quote, research them. I'm not a vampire researcher.
I see.
Other people have done that, and that's well and good. But like I say, I think I was just given this revelation for them, for their sakes and for your sakes.
Wow.
I wrote the storyline for them and for you.
Wow. Have you
People,
ever...
that is, humans.
Right. Have you ever met a vampire in person? Do you know any?
I saw one at Walmart once.
So Walmart is like Area 51. You don't need to go
as far as to say that, but there was one afternoon. It was like 2 p.m, and he was with other people, so I didn't approach him. But when I saw him, I knew what he was.
Wow. So again, this the folklore from the movies. How much did that inspire you as well? I mean, you had these dreams and these visions, but you've never seen any of the old vampire films like the Nosferatu? I'm sure you have. I mean, are they like that?
In the early days, I heard of them, but I didn't really watch them. And since 1983, I've made a point of not watching all the vampire type things. I know that things have been on HBO and other places and very popular movies, but I have not seen them because I made a choice because I wanted to write my storyline and not be influenced by these other things.
That's true. No, that's true. You want to be original.
I stayed away.
Yeah, no, you want to be completely original, which I'm sure your series is. I mean, I can't wait to sink my teeth into this book series of yours here. No pun intended.
Some very interesting characteristics that Macon has, like she can hear the voice of blood. And I've heard the voice of blood. I do remember a story that walking back into my house that when my family was still alive, and I do remember seeing blood drip from the floor to the ceiling of my bedroom. And I sort of closed my eyes and prayed and says, I don't see this stuff anymore, and then it stopped. But I had bad dreams like that for, I'd say generally up until high school.
Wow.
And then about that time, I said over and over again, I'm not going to have these dreams anymore. I'm not going to have these dreams anymore. And they eventually stopped.
Do you think you were being psychically attacked by one of these entities?
I don't know that it would be psychically attacked, but something in my background is dark. And see, I'm walking, this is a revelation of darkness and blood. But the interesting part about the storyline is that, there are 16 stories, but in every 4-story block, it repeats the pattern of love, grace, compassion, and right with God. I think that's out of Psalm 112:4, I think. Unto the upright, let's see, what is that verse? Darkness shall arise unto the upright, but he, meaning God, is gracious, full of compassion, and righteous. So, since each of the 4-story blocks repeat the pattern of love, grace, compassion, and right with God, I think that's where this story came from. I think the Lord gave me this revelation of her so that I could write it in a story so that people would have some basis of understanding them apart from the Hollywood hype and all the rest of it. Because when they actually show up and you find out that my children exist, you're going to want to know something a little more about them than what Hollywood can give you.
Wow, that's incredible, Douglas. Truly riveting, frightening, just shocking series. It sounds like it's refreshing from all the there's a lot of bad vampire stuff put out there by Hollywood, and this sounds like it's pretty good, pretty suspenseful.
I would be happy to send you stories if you'd like. I can have Nicole do that if you'd like to have.
Yes, she agreed to have some of your work sent to me. I'm very thankful for that. Thank you so much, and I recommend my audience to go out there and get their hands on this book. Tell my audience where they could find your work, Douglas.
Okay, there's another Douglas Robinson who writes, but if you type in my name and the Silently series storyline,
right,
you should be able to find them on either Amazon or Kindle.
Amazon or Kindle. I see it right there, and I'll provide a link to that as well. Thank you so much for being on it. As soon as you write your newest book, we want to have you back on. If there are any vampire news out there, I'd definitely like to have you break it on my show, Douglas.
Thank you, sir. I'll keep you posted.
Thank you. Thank you for being on. That was Douglas Robinson. Wow, that was pretty spooky, wasn't it? That's right. For someone who has not lived the same lifetime, I'm very wise, like Van Helsing. Wow, what a suspenseful book series it sounds like Douglas has. Be sure to sink your teeth into it, folks. It's been a very special episode of the Bruce Montalvo Show, broadcasting live July 2nd, August 2nd already, August 2nd, 2019, and we'll be back. Monday, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, Fridays, 6 p.m. Mountain Time on TalkStream Live and Spreaker. Sayonara.
Montalvo Broadcasting Network.